And welcome to the third day of the swimming program of the 2023 NatWest International Island Games being held at Beausejour Leisure Centre. My name is Conor Osborough and I will be your host and commentator this morning. And today promises to be as exciting as the last 2 days. And we're just going to start off with the first event this morning, which is the men's 100 metres individual medley. And this morning we start off with the men's 100 metres individual medley, and we have 5 heats in this event. And in the first heat we have swimmers from the Falkland Islands, St Helena and Ireland. And this event requires swimmers to swim 4 lengths. First length butterfly, second length backstroke, third length breaststroke, and then the final length on front crawl. So first to touch will be Stefan Thomas from St Helena as he switches from back to breaststroke. And it's 4 years since the normally biannual event was held in Gibraltar, and this year we have, for the 19th edition of the Games, over 160 competitors from 18 islands swimming during the week. And so far we've had 22 events swum, with Jersey currently topping the medal table, with Guernsey in second place and the Isle of Man in third. And this morning we have another 11 heats, which start, as I've said just a moment ago, with the 100 metres individual medley, and it's Stefan Thomas coming in first in the first heat with a finishing time of 109.66. So heat 2 will start in just a moment, and in heat 2 we have 6 swimmers, 2 from Inishmon, 2 from Orkney, 1 from Mallorca and 1 from the Cayman Islands. And heat 2's away, and it's the third time that Guernsey has hosted the Island Games, the last time being 20 years ago in 2003. And a big thank you goes out to the Guernsey Amateur Swimming Association, the Guernsey Organising Committee, the Guernsey Island Games Association, as well as all the technical officials, volunteers and Beausejour staff for all the work that goes into hosting an event such as this. So in heat 2, leading the way is lane 5. And it's Ewan Jones from the Inishmon touching first. But there are 4 swimmers pretty much in line all the way through from one lane to lane 4 and also lane 5. So in lane 2, Jack Wallace from Orkney takes the lead on the breaststroke leg, and is maintaining and pulling away on the freestyle leg, breathing every 2 as he comes through to the last 5 metres, holding his breath for his finish, finishing on a full stroke and finishing on a fun time of 104.75. It's a good time. His seeded time was 111.13. So heat 3 of 5 will start in just a moment, and these will be the first of the cyclical seeded heats, with Charlie Joe Hallett from Guernsey going in lane 3. He's third seed in the event after winning the 50 breaststroke last night. And Charlie Joe is the first swimmer to go with a seeded time under 60 seconds. There are 4 swimmers with a time, an entry time under 60 seconds, and already Charlie Joe is taking lead on the butterfly leg and taking advantage of the underwater stroke. to 10 meters. Nice still head position there, counting his strokes for a finish before he can touch from back to breast. And this is his specialty stroke. So we'd expect Charlie Joe to move away from the rest of the field on his breaststroke before switching onto the front crawl. And he's built up a substantial lead from the other swimmers at about 7 meters or so, and he'll come through to finish strongly. 5 meters left to swim, holding his breath for a full finish, and finishes on a time of 58.40. And some of you may have noticed that Charlie Joe switched his technique slightly in the last 5 meters, so leading up that last length he had a nice high elbow, but in the last 5 meters he switched to more of a straight arm over the water recovery, keeping his head down and touching on a full stroke. And we'll move on quickly into heat 4 of 5. And fastest seed in this heat is Benjamin Cable from the Isle of Man with a seeded time of 57.51. And heat 4 is away. Ben Cable from the Isle of Man in lane 3 with the black cap. And beside him is Thomas Ferguson from the Cayman Islands. And also in this heat is Peter Allen from the Isle of Man with a successful night last night, winning the 100 butterfly and also the 200 freestyle. And these 3 swimmers are taking the lead. And it's Ben Cable from the Isle of Man touching first, going from back to breast, and is holding that lead on the breaststroke, and he'll switch in a moment from breaststroke to front crawl for the final 25. And it looks like Benjamin Cable is going to touch, and it's going to be between the Cayman Island and Peter Allen for second place, and only 4 100 separate them. And it's Peter Allen who gets the touch there in second, and Thomas Ferguson in third for the Cayman Islands. And in just a moment we'll have the 5th and final heat. And we have 2 swimmers with a seeded time under 60 seconds here. So one is Robert Jones from Jersey on a 54.93, and the other is Ronnie Halliot. And also in this heat is George Story, all 3 medalists from last night's finals. Fifth and final heat in the water. And lane 3, Robert Jones, using all 15 metres underwater. And we've got the 2 Jersey swimmers in their red hats in lane 2 and 3. And beside them is Ronnie Halliot. And it's Robert Jones using the underwater work to his advantage on his backstroke. And he's going to touch first on a 26.85. Followed by the other Jersey swimmer and Ronnie Halliot in third. And it's Ronnie, who's the breaststroke specialist, who'll catch back up. So Ronnie won the 100 breaststroke and second in the 50 breaststroke last night. And the 2 swimmers are neck and neck on the last turn. And they've got 10 metres left to swim. As Robert Jones touches first in a 58.34, followed by Ronnie Halliot in a 58.92. So 3 swimmers going 58 seconds this morning in the 100 metres individual medley. And they'll be the fastest 3 into tonight's final.
Ladies, 6 ladies, 1, 2, 3, 6 ladies lining up ready for heat number
And we're
1
going to
of
switch event and take it at a slightly slower pace from what we've just seen. We're going to move from the 100 meters individual medley through to the women's 400 meters freestyle. So this is 16 laps. The current record is held by Christina Neves from Guernsey, set in 2011, which is held at 4 minutes 16.97.
Away they go. Heat number 1 of the men, 24.
And heat 1's in the water. So for the 400 freestyle, swimmers have to swim 16 lengths. And unlike the 800 and the 1500, swimmers don't have lap counters to remember how many laps they've got to swim. So they've got to remember themselves how far they swum and how far they've left to go. And swimmers will implement different tactics, but really we're talking about a race that can be split easily into quarters. So the first 100 meters, moving then to halfway, and then 300 meters, and then the final 100. And the first 2 swimmers leading the way are lane 2 and lane 3, and that's Jenna Clapham from Orkney in lane 2 and Isabel Muncaster from the Isle of Wight. And they're going to touch for the first 100 and turn, both turning on a 69.1 and a 69.0. And there are 3 heats of the women's 400 meters freestyle this morning. And we have Isabel Muncaster from the Isle of Wight starting to take a little bit of a lead over the swimmer from Orkney. So the 100 meters, they were separated by about a tenth of the second, but now that lead is increasing slightly, and it's moving out over a body length, maybe a body length and a half now, over the second 100. So we're going to touch now at halfway at 200 meters, and Isabel Muncaster's over first in a time of 2:23.7. So she's gone from a 69 point for the first 100 through to a 1:14 for the second 100. And third lane is lane 4. The swimmers from the Shetland Isles just in shot. But it's Isabel Muncaster who is leading the way, and that lead that she'd built up over the second 100 is being extended through into the third 100 meters. And Isabel's now turning up to the 300 meter mark. And that's a 3:39. So she's drifted out to about a 1:15 pace. And she's got a 75 meters left to swim, so we'll see if she can drop that back down. Her time that she was going there in the third 100 to try and come back a little bit quicker. And what we might see in just a moment on the last 50 meters is a change in her leg kick. So she may well, with 50 meters to go, start to kick a little bit harder, because she's now knows she's on her final lap, and indeed she is kicking a little bit harder and is just making sure that she can maintain her speed through to the last 25 metres. And here she is on her last turn. Now she's maintaining her breathing at every 3. Bilaterally breathing all the way through with 5 metres left to swim. And she's going to touch in a 4:53.28. And her seeded time was over 5 minutes. Her seeded time was 5:03.61. So that looks like that's a personal best time, and maybe even the first time under 5 minutes for Isabel Muncaster. So her finish time was 4:53.28. So a big smile there from Isabel. We're going to move on to heat 2 of 3 once the rest of the swimmers have finished. And the fastest seed in the second heat of the women's 400 freestyle is Orla Raby from Guernsey, and Orla's already won 4 gold medals. So she won gold medals on 2 individual events, the 50 and 100 butterfly, and also the 2 relays that have gone so far. So that's the women's 4x50 freestyle team relay and the women's 4x50 medley team relay. Both those relays breaking the old Ireland Games record, so she's certainly on form.
The referee over you. Silence around the pool, please, guys. Silence.
And so it's going to be heat 2 of 3, about to take to the water. Heat 2's in the water.
Number 3 in this event, number 24, the women's 400 metre freestyle. In lane number 1 for Scotland,
and we can see the cyclical seed taking into effect. We've got a spearhead shape in the pool with the fastest swimmer in lane 3, which will be Orla Raby, and she's already taking the lead on that. And then second seed will be the swimmer from Jersey, Sienna Stevens. And then we've got the swimmers on the inside lanes in lane 5 and lane 2, followed by swimmers in lane 1 and lane 6. But it's Orla Raby taking the swimming out in the first 50 in a 30.04. And both swimmers there in the lead, swimming all the way underwater to 5 meters before they start swimming, so using the turn to their advantage on the 400. And both swimmers are coming up now to the first 100 meter turn. And Orla splitting there in a 101.69, and Sienna Stevens closely behind. So these two swimmers have a seeded time. Orla has a seeded time of 4:22.92, and Sienna Stevens from Jersey, the red hat, has a seeded time of 4:27.01. So both swimmers coming up at 5 meters and into their breathing stroke. Both swimmers breathing towards the camera as we see them going down that lap. And Orla breathing towards Sienna, and Sienna breathing towards Orla. So they could probably see each other slightly, or certainly see the splash of each other out of each corner of each other's eyes as they come up to the 200 meter mark, with Orla splitting in a 2:08 and Sienna Stevens splitting a 2:10. So both swimmers using a 6-beat leg kick. Yesterday we saw Kyra Rabis from the Cayman Islands swimming in the 1500 meters using a nice steady 2-beat leg kick. So typically as you swim up the distance, swimmers might prefer to use a leg kick that's less taxing on the legs, and just let their legs drift in balance with their arm action, so taking one leg kick for each arm action as they swim. But here we can see both swimmers on the 400, Orla and Sienna, using a 6-beat leg kick in addition to their arm action. And Orla's over at the 300 mark on a 3:15, so she's 65-meter pace. So if she carries on like this, she could well break the 4:20 mark that she's seated on. And she has less than 3 laps to go. Last 50 meters for Orla as she turns in a 3:49.55, followed by Sienna Stevens in a 3:55.43. So final lap for Orla, and she's increased her leg kick because she knows she's on the final length, and she's got 10 meters left to go. And she's going to just go above the 4:20 meter mark, so it's 4:22.93. 4:22.90. So that's 2/100ths faster than a seeded time. And in second place was Sienna Stevens, followed by Laura Dennant from the Isle of Man, and then Nina Sinclair from the Cayman Islands. The other swimmers coming in to finish. That's Bethany Irvine and Ella Ardman from Gotland. That's Bethany finishing in a 5:02.76. So that's heat 2 complete, and we'll move on to heat 3. So past the seed in heat 3 is Kyra Rabis from the Cayman Islands. Kyra swam the 1500 meters last night and won the first gold medal for the Cayman Islands in the swimming program. And she's fast the seed this morning, going into the 400 freestyle. Also in this heat is Ailish Raby from Guernsey. That's Orla's sister. She goes in lane 5 in the white hat. And we also have Iadrid Mortensen from the Faroe Isles, Alana Woodhall from Jersey, Nell O'Brien from the Isle of Wight, and Georgina Manspons from Mallorca. And it's Ailish Raby in line 5, just taking the slight lead over Kyra Rabis. But it's Kyra Rabis who actually touches first on the turn in the middle lane. And like the 1500 meter last night, Kyra Rabis is using a leg kick that just is a 2-beat rhythm. So you'll see that as she brings her arms over and pulls, the opposite leg kicks and vice versa as she's swimming down the length. Whereas the other swimmers that you see in frame are using a 6-beat leg kick as they're turning their arms over. A lot of that comes down to the preference of the swimmer and what they're trained and how they're trained and what they feel most comfortable with as they're swimming. So it's Kyra Rabis coming up to touch at the 150 mark in a time of 1:36.04, and she's extending her lead out to 2 body lengths. And she's being followed by the swimmer from the Faroe Isles, Jersey and Guernsey, so they are the top 4. It's Idrid Waterson from the Faroe Isles who is starting to break away from the other two. And we see there the 200 metre mark. Kyra Ravis splitting a 2:09, which is the same time that Orla Raby split in the previous heat. Kyra Ravis there in the lead, followed by Idrid Mortensen from the Faroe Isles in the lane beside her in lane 4 in the blue cap. And then we have the Jersey swimmer and the Guernsey swimmer in 3rd and 4th. That's Lana Woodhall and Ailish Raby. But it's Kyra Ravis who's coming up to the 300 metre mark in a 3:15. And that's again the same time that Orla Raby split in the previous heat. So those two swimmers are splitting similar times, even though they're a heat apart. So these swimmers are all swimming for a place in this evening's final. So although they've got to swim 16 lengths this morning, they'll have to come back this evening and swim another 16 lengths before the medals are decided. And that's different to the 800 freestyle and the 1500 metre freestyle, where those events are heat declared winners. And that just means that the final heat goes last, and in that final heat, the swimmers with the fastest times swim it as a final. Kyra Ravis is coming through to touch for the 400 metres event in a 4:20.36. So that's 2 seconds quicker than Orla Raby in the previous heat. So she came back 2 seconds quicker on the final 100 than Orla did. And then in second place with Idrid Mortensen, and then followed by Lana Woodhall and Ailish Raby. And then in frame in lane 1, Nell O'Brien from the Isle of Wight finishes, and Georgina Manes Pons from Mallorca touches in a 4:50.06. And we're going to move on to the next event, which is the men's 200 metres backstroke, and we have 2 heats. So the first heat has 5 swimmers. One from Orkney, one from the Shetland Islands, one from Guernsey, Jersey and then Mallorca. And in the second heat we have 6 swimmers taking up the lanes.
In event number 25, 200 metre backstroke, 8 lengths of the pool.
And the current record is held by Harry Shulman from Jersey in a time of 1:56.40 set in 2019 at the Island Games in Gibraltar. And going in this heat in lane 3 is the fastest seed, Guernsey's Tom Hollingsworth, and he's looking to claim his 53rd Island Games medal in this event. So he's already swum this week, claiming his 50th and 51st, so forgive me, he's going for his 52nd medal of the Island Games in this event, the 200 metres backstroke. Also in this heat is Alfie Price from Orkney, Finley Guides from the Shetland Islands, Luke Fleming from Jersey, and Alex Gameras Carreras from Mallorca. And the officials are just taking extra steps to make sure the backstroke starting wedge is in place before the swimmers are called to the attention of the referee and the race gets underway.
Thank you everyone. Over to you, Mr. Referee, sir. Sorry, madam.
11 swimmers start.
25.
On backstroke, getting up over the water into a nice streamlined shape, and then taking advantage of the underwater before they start swimming. And Tom Hollingsworth is an excellent proponent of that technique, going all 12 meters under the water before he starts swimming. And then he pops up just at 10 meters and will probably do so for the rest of the race on each one of his turns. And closely beside him is Luke Fleming from Jersey in lane 4 in the red hat. But it's Tom Hollingsworth splitting first in a 29.2, so the first swimmer over the turn and the only swimmer to drop under the 30-second barrier for the first 50 meters. And we can see there that, the turns are remaining at 10 meters. And sometimes it's quite a good indication to see how a swimmer's feeling if they can maintain their underwater work as they start. So if they start off going 10 meters underwater and continue going 10 meters underwater, it means that they're feeling relatively comfortable. But if that distance underwater starts to diminish, going from 10 meters to maybe 8 meters or even shorter, it means that their legs are starting to feel a bit heavy and a bit tired, and they're struggling to get their breath in before they start swimming. Alternatively, it can mean that the swimmer knows that they're doing well and are saving themselves for this evening's final, because all these swimmers are swimming for a place. The fastest 6 go through to the final, and we have 11 swimmers swimming, so Tom just needs to make sure he goes fast enough to make a place, and will then swim in this evening's final. So both swimmers there in shot. We've got Tom Hollingsworth leading, followed by Luke Fleming from Jersey, and it's Tom coming up with 5 meters left to go. Touching first in a 2:08.25, followed by Luke Fleming in 2:11.47. Followed by Finlay Guidas from the Shetland Islands in a 2:14.76, and they are the top 3 swimmers in Heat 1. And then touching is Alex Gomez Carreras and Alfie Price, finishing off the first heat. Swimmers will be asked to exit the water. There's no overhead starts and backstroke for obvious reasons, so the next heat will commence once the swimmers exit, and we have a heat where we have 6 swimmers, 2 from the Western Islands, 1 from the Isle of Man, 1 from the Isle of Wight, 1 from the Cayman Islands, and 1 from Guernsey. And the fastest seed is in lane 3, that's Sam Lowe, in an entry time of 2:05.53. Also in this heat is Will Sellers. Will Sellers has had a bit of a busy program already. He's swum the 1500 meters freestyle, and also the 50 backstroke, and also the 400 individual medley yesterday as individual events. Heat 2 is underway. The men's 200 meter backstroke. And taking a lead there is Sam Lowe and Will Sellers. Sam Lowe in lane 3, and beside him, Will Sellers from the Cayman Islands. Lane 5 is George Hayward from the Isle of Wight. It's these 3 swimmers who are starting to take an early lead across the heat. And it's going to be Sam Lowe who's going to touch first on the 50 with a 29.04, followed by Will Sellers at a 29.88. And Sam Lowe's building a body length lead on the backstroke. And using his underwater work, coming up at about 7 meters, which is the same as Will Sellers and George Hayward in lane 5. So the 100 meter mark, we have Sam Lowe touching in a 60.5, followed by Will Sellers in a 60.8. So we've got a nearly 2.5 second lead there for Sam Lowe from Guernsey in lane 3. You can see there all swimmers doing their underwater, coming up at about 6 meters. And that lead that Sam built in the first 100 meters is maintaining. So Will Sellers is just tracking. So both these swimmers, so Sam Lowe and Will Sellers, both swam the 1500 meters on the first day. So hopefully that's not going to be taking too much of a toll on their legs, in particular on the backstroke, as they turn over and they approach their final length. And Sam Lowe's got 10 meters left to swim. And he'll start counting his strokes to make sure he finishes on a full stroke, which he does. And he finishes in a 2:08.22. It's Will Sellers in a 2:10.45. And George Hayward in a 2:11.89. So they're the top 3 in that heat. So there's not much time difference between the 2 Guernsey swimmers from the first and second heat. So that was Tom Hollingsworth, who swam a 2:08, as did Sam Lowe there in the second heat. And we're going to move now on to the next event, which is the women's 100 meters breaststroke. And the 100 meters breaststroke for women. Couple of DQs to give you in event number 23 is about to start. Lane 4. And the current record is set by Cara Hanlon from the Western Isles with a time of 1 minute 07.28 set in 2019.
So on we go with it. Event number 26, the women's 100 meter breaststroke. We have 3 heats in that one. Ladies of heat number 3 ready to go now.
We have swimmers from Jersey, Faroe Islands, Guernsey, Isle of Wight and Western Isles going in this first heat, with Leah Osberg Holstead from the Faroe Islands seeded first, and she goes in lane 3 with the blue hat. Her seed time is 1:11.47. Also in this heat beside her is Laura Lacroix from Guernsey, Erin Goodbody from Jersey, Hannah Sterry from Jersey, Maya Stillwell from the Isle of Wight, and Erin Smith from the Western Isles. And it looks like Laura Lacroix touches first in lane 4. And then behind her is Leah Osberg from the Faroe Isles and Mia Stillwell from the Isle of Wight. And closely following those is Erin Goodbody from Jersey in lane 2 in the red hat. But it's Laura Carr touching first in a 30.38, followed by Laura Osberg in a 34.99. And Laura's just maintaining that lead there as she comes up to her final time. Slight adjustment in her stroke leading up to that final turn. So she took her second last stroke, a slightly short stroke, so she could finish on a full stroke to get on a turn. And she was able to maintain her speed around the wall into the underwater work and maintain that through into this length. So she'll look to finish on a full stroke again, which she does, and finishes in a 1:13.45, followed by Leah Osberg Holstead. And in third, it's Erin Goodbody from Jersey, finishing with a time of 1:15.33. And Mia Stillwell, Anna Sterry, and Erin Smith in 4th to 6th places. Heat 2 will go next, and in Heat 2, the fastest seed, we have Asia Kent from Gibraltar. And Asia last night swam the 200 metres breaststroke, and she won gold medal in that event, and that was Gibraltar's first gold medal in the swimming programme this week. And she's the fastest seed going in lane 3 with a time of 1:11.00.
Heat number 2 out of 3 underway now, and event 26 in lane number 1 for Poland.
It was Asia Kent who came up first, not necessarily the furthest. That was lane 4. And lane 4 is Grace Pointer from the Isle of Wight. And it's these two swimmers who are leading the way. But we also have a strong swim in lane 1 from Ellen Wolverine from Åland. So it's Asia Kent leading the way on a 34.75 at the 50 metre mark. And she's maintaining that lead all the way through. And we've got two very different breaststroke styles on show here today. So if we look at lane 3, Asia has a very flat, high tempo stroke. So her head just lifts the water and goes forward. So everything's being driven forward. Whereas in lane 1 and lane 4, we have a slightly higher type of technique where the swimmers reach up and forward and over the water. But it's Asia Kent that finishes first in a 113.23, followed by Grace Pointer and Ellen Wolverine from Åland in third. And the third and final heat will go in just a moment as we have the results. We've got Freya Masson from the Shetland Isles, Caitlin Sullivan from the Cayman Islands, and Ayla Sorensen from Greenland, coming in 6th place in a 123.55. In Heat 3, we have the fastest seed, which is Laura Kinley from the Isle of Man, and her seeded time is 108.17, and she's the only swimmer with the seeded time sub 110.
Sorry, madam, over to you, madam referee. Sorry.
Third and final heat is in the water.
So we
have swimmers from Åland, Cayman Islands, Isle of Man, Shetland Islands, Guernsey and Mallorca all swimming in this heat. And it's lane 3 who's taking the lead. And that's Laura Kinley from the Isle of Man. Closely following her then in lane 4 is Jasmine Smith from the Shetland Isles, and it's these two swimmers that are reaching and stretching the lead, with Laura Kinley touching first at the 50 metre mark on a 33.51, followed by Jasmine Smith in a 34.08. And they've got 25 left to swim. And these two swimmers are swimming away from the rest of the field. But it's Laura Kinley who's maintaining that lead that she built on the first 50. Is going to finish a slight adjustment to a stroke there on the last two strokes to finish on a full stroke. But she finishes on a 111.35. And Jasmine Smith on a 112.72 with Oriana Wheeler in third and a 117.12. We'll just wait for those results to be confirmed before we move on to the next event. And there we are. So in fourth was Sabina Ellenson from the Cayman Islands, Wilma Dallinson from Åland, and Mar Pons Torres from Mallorca, finishing on a 125.02.
Indeed, number 1, 3 gentlemen ready to do their bit. We'll give you the others when they get underway. So
next up, we have the men's 100 meters freestyle, and we have 5 heats in this event, and the current record is set by Brett Fraser from the Cayman Islands, and that Island Games record is currently held as 47.65, set in 2013, and we have 3 swimmers going in this first heat, 2 from the Falkland Islands and 1 from Åland.
So now event 27, the men's 100 meter freestyle.
And it's Milo Bergman from Åland, who is swimming in lane 3, who takes the early lead off the start. And turns at the 25-meter mark and is swimming away from the 2 swimmers from the Falkland Islands. Milo touches first at the 50 meters in a 29.464, followed by the 2 Falkland Islands touching in a 32 and a 33 seconds respectively. So Milo Bergman's seeded time is a 64.71, and if he's just split a 29 for the first 100, we will be looking to see if he can break that time. And it looks like he will. Yep, 62.56. So it's over a 2-second improvement from his seeded time. And then we have the 2 Falkland swimmers coming in a 108 and the other in a 109.
Over to you, Madam Referee Salas again, please round the pool, guys. Thank you.
Heat 2 is up next, and we have 2 swimmers from St Helena, 1 from Orkney and 1 from Åland swimming in this heat, which is Heat 2. Heat 2's underway.
And
we have the first swimmer with a seeded time at sub 60 seconds in this heat. That's Fraser Burton from Orkney, and he swims in lane 3. He's the fastest seed. And beside him from St Helena is Stefan Thomas. Also in the heat is the swimmer from Åland in lane 5, Hugo Mirren. And we have William Castle, also from St Helena, swimming in this heat. But it's Fraser Burton going out first on a 27.23. And he'll be looking to go a sub 60 with 25 meters left to swim. And he's starting to pull away from Fraser Burton, from Stefan Thomas from St Helena. It's Fraser Burton touches first, with 3 swimmers going sub 60. So Fraser Burton first. And he looks pleased with that swim, 57.68. His entry time was a 59.26. Stefan Thomas, 58 also. And Hugo Mirren also just dipping under the 60-second barrier, 59.76, with William Castle on a 60.11. We move on to Heat 3 of 5, the first of the cyclical seeded heat. And we have the 3rd ranked swimmer going into the seeds here. It's Oliver Bro from Jersey in lane 3 with a seeded time of 52.00. Also in this heat are swimmers from Guernsey, the Western Isles, the Shetland Islands and the Isle of Wight. But it's the Jersey swimmer leading the way off the start, so that's Oliver Breu touching first, followed by Owen Edwards from Guernsey in lane 4. So it's these 2 swimmers leading the way. That's Oliver touching in a 24.36, followed by Owen Edwards in a 25.40. It's Oliver Breu who's building that lead and maintaining it and extending it all the way through to 75 meters, and he's got 50 meters left to swim. And he touches the wall, 50.9, which is quite a bit quicker than his seeded time. So his seeded time is a 52.00, and he's just gone a 50.9 there, so much quicker. Second was Owen Edwards in a 54.21. Third, Joe Carter, 54.94. And then we had Carl McDonald, Harry Pointer, and Matthew Hanlon, with Matthew finishing in a 58.44. Heat 4 is next. And going fastest seed in this will be in lane 3 from the Faroe Islands, Bartel Erlings Idesgaard. And his seeded time is a 51.52. And we have swimmers from Mallorca, Guernsey, Isle of Wight, Shetland Isles, Orkney, as well as the Faroe Islands in this event. And it's lane 2, which is Johnny Beck from Guernsey leading the way. But the top 3 swimmers are pretty much in a line, so that includes Bartel Erlings Idesgaard and Joe Carter from the Isle of Wight. But it looks like it'll be Johnny Beck just being touched down by Bartel Erlings on the 50-meter mark. So the Faroe Island swimmers turned in a 25.72, but it's these two swimmers battling out with 25 left to go. And Bartel Erlings Idesgaard was able to maintain his speed in his turn and exiting ahead of Johnny Beck. And he's finishing on a 52.52, followed by Johnny Beck and Joe Carter. Also in that heat, finishing 4th, was Caelan Johnson from the Shetland Isles, Jack Wallace from Orkney, and George William Sayonis from Mallorca with a time of 58.80. And we'll come now to the final heat of this event for this morning, Heat 5 of the men's 100 metres freestyle. And fastest seed here is Joel Waterson from the Isle of Man, and is the only seeded time sub 60, so his seeded time is 48.90. And he goes in lane 3 with a black hack, and beside him, also from the Isle of Man, is Carrick Thompson, and then George Story from Jersey makes up the top 3 seeds, and he goes in lane 2 with a red hat. As the 2 Isle of Man swimmers taking out the 100 at the 50 mark, both turning on a dead heat time, so both turning in the 24.83, followed by George Story in a 25.54. There's Joel Waterson extending that lead on the 3rd length and using his underwater turn and maintaining that speed through his turn into his swimming stroke. Finishing 1st, a time of 51.66. Second was Carrick Thompson, 52.80. George Story, 53.40. And then we had Stefan Vestine, Luke Cortez Sala, and Ben Wireless from Scotland, finishing in 60.96. Next heat, next event is the women's 50-meter freestyle. And the current record is set at 26.03 from 2017 by Catherine Offer from the Western Isles. And we have 3 swimmers in this first heat, 1 from St Helena going in lane 3 and 2 from the Falkland Isles on either side of her. So this event is where swimmers just swim 2 lengths, 1 turn, 1 start, 1 finish. And it's Vivian Ponsford and Ella Clement. And it's Ella Clement from the Falkland Isles touching first in a 31.63, followed by Vivian Ponsford from St Helena in a 31.88, and Zoe Clement from the Falkland Isles in a 34.26. Heat 2 is up next, and we'll have 5 swimmers. 2 from the Western Isles, 2 from Mallorca, and 1 from Orkney. Heat 2 is underway.
In lane number 1 for Western Isles, Kira McDonald.
And it's lane 3 who's taking a slight lead.
In lane 3 for
Mariona Capo from Mallorca.
In lane 4 for Western
And
Isles.
it's also Aaron Smith from the Western Isles, who's managed to take the advantage of the turn to move into front, and it looks like she'll end up touching first. And she does, so that's Aaron Smith from the Western Isles, and a 29.13, which is 0.4 faster than her seeded time, which is 29.43. And we're going to move next on to Heat 3, so this will be the first of the cyclically seeded heats. And going fastest in this next heat is Alison Jackson from the Cayman Islands, with a seeded time of 26.44, and beside her, next fastest, is Laura Lacroix, who's already swum the 100 medley this morning. Meter breaststroke this morning, apologies. So it's Heat 3 going. The women's 50 meter front crawl. So there's a very quick start there in lane 1 from Liz Powell, but lane 3, followed by lane 4. So Alison Jackson and Laura Craw taking out this third heat. And Alison Jackson is moving away from the rest of the swimmers. She's going to touch first. And she touches first in a 26.27 with Laura Craw in second in a 27.22. Third was Lucy Erickson from the Isle of Wight. And then we have Elizabeth, Rachel Sanders, and Selma Nordberg finishing off the other places, with Selma finishing in a 29.04. Next up is Heat 4 of 5, with the fastest seed being Eve Wood from Orkney going in lane 3. And she has a seeded time of 26.40. Now the other swimmer here who has a seeded time under 27 seconds is Hannah Jones from Guernsey in lane 4.
Heat number 4 out of 5 heats in event 28 in lane number 1 for Shetland Islands.
So Heat 4 is underway with the swimmer for Orkney and the swimmer from Guernsey touching pretty much at the same time, and it's the swimmer from Guernsey who's able to use the turn to her advantage. She's carried her momentum from the turn into her stroke, and that's Hannah Jones who's going to touch first on a very short stroke. So Hannah Jones finishes on a 26.79, followed by Eve Wood in a 27.03. Jenny Ick from Ireland is third there in a 28.01, followed by the swimmers from the Cayman Islands, Shetland Islands and Scotland. Ella Ardman finishing at 29.73.
Silence from the blue guys, please. Silence, poolside. Over to you, Madam Referee.
Fifth and final heat of the women's 50 metre freestyle goes next with the fastest seed, Laura Keenley from the Isle of Man, going in lane 3. two swimmers again with a seeded time sub 27 in here. So that's Laura Keenly and Alicia Beck Vestergaard from the Faroe Isles in lane 4. So it's these two swimmers together with a swimmer from Jersey in lane 2, Megan Hansford in the red cap, who are leading this final heat. It's the Faroe Isles swimmer who looks to be leading, and if she gets her finish right, oh, very, very close there, a little bit of a drift from the Faroe Isles, but she managed to get it by 9/100 seconds. So that's Alicia Beck Vestergaard who touches first in a 26.97, followed by Laura Keenly in a 27.06. And third, Megan Hansford in a 27.37. Chloe Batley and Ayla Sorensen and Yasmin Smith make up the remaining places. Although Yasmin Smith, as I've just seen, did not in fact start. So fifth place goes then to Ayla Sorensen from Greenland in a 29.79. The next event is the men's 50 meters butterfly, and the current Ireland Games record is set by Brett Fraser, and that is set at a time of 23.26, set in 2013, and that's Brett Fraser from the Cayman Islands, and we've seen his name already today. As Brett Fraser currently holds the Ireland Games record for the 100 freestyle as well. And we have three swimmers in this first heat, two from Åland and one from Inishmon. And it's Hugo Miram from Åland leading out this first heat in the lane closest to us, with 4 meters left to go. And he finishes in a 30.98.
With you, Madam Referee.
This is the second heat of 5 for the men's 50 meters butterfly.
Number 2, lane 1 for Inishmon is.
There are 6 swimmers here, one from Inishmon, 2 from the Western Isles, 2 from Mallorca and 1 from St Helena. And all 6 swimmers are in a line, with the first swimmer rising in lane 3, being Luke Cortez Salafs from Mallorca. But by the looks of this could well go to who finishes on a full stroke without a glide. And that looks to be Liam McFarlane from the Western Isles in a 29.08. Touches first. Followed by Carl McDonald, also from the Western Isles, in a 29.35. With the other swimmers shown on the screen. Heat 3 is next. And it's the first of the cyclically seeded heats, so the third fastest for the event goes in this heat, and that's Thomas Ferguson from the Cayman Islands in lane 3 with a seeded time of 24.88.
On we go then, heat number 3, ready to go over you, Mr. Referees.
Also in this heat are 2 swimmers from the Isle of Wight, from the Shetland Isles, and 1 from Orkney, as well as a swimmer from Gotland in lane 1. And the swimmers are away. And lane 3 uses 10 metres underwater before he starts swimming and is extending that lead. And that is Thomas Ferguson from the Cayman Islands. Going 9 metres off the turn before up into a swimming stroke. And not taking a breath so far on the second length. And finishes on a full stroke, 25.59. So for swimmers to be able to not take a breath on that second length, they need to know how many strokes they're going to take. So they typically count the number of kicks they take underwater and then count the number of strokes they take so they can finish on a full stroke. So Thomas Ferguson first, followed by George Hayward, Joe Carter from the Isle of Wight, and Joe Carter from the Shetland Isles, followed by Gotland and Orkney coming in 5th and 6th.
I wonder if that's ever cropped up before. Two guys, different islands, same name. On we go to heat number 4.
Heat 4 is next,
We're ready to go.
with the fastest seed being Peter Allen from the Isle of Man, with a seeded time of 24.75, and he had a busy day yesterday, so he's already won gold. He won gold in the 100 butterfly yesterday evening, and also in the 200 metres front crawl. So Peter Allen goes in lane 3 with the back hat from the Isle of Man. Also in this heat is Charlie Joe Hullett from Guernsey and Isaac Dag Bleedsveld from the Faroe Islands, and they make up the top 3 seeds.
Lane 3 for the Isle of Man, Pete Allen. Lane 4 for Guernsey, Charlie Joe Hallett.
Pete Allen using 12 metres there on the underwater work before he starts swimming. And he was able to use that just to get ahead of Charlie Joe and maintain that through to the swimming, and he touches first in a 25.65, followed by Charlie Joe in a 25.94. And Isaac Dag Breedsveld third in 26.32. Merrick Kent, Magnus Bullock and Kieran Smith finishing off the remaining places. Kieran Smith finishing at 29.41, and we have the 5th and final heat next. And in this 5th and final heat we have the fastest seed, and that's Joel Waterson from the Isle of Man, and he's the only seed who has a time sub 24 seconds, and his seeded time is 23.80. Also in this heat are 2 swimmers from Jersey, a swimmer from the Cayman Islands, a swimmer from the Faroe Islands, and a swimmer from Gotland. And the 5th and final heat is away.
So the final heat of this event, 29, heat number 5 in lane number 1.
It is Joel Waterson from the Isle of Man touching first on the 25 metre mark.
Lane 3 for the Isle of Man, Joel Waterson. Lane 4 for Faroe Islands.
He's extending his lead from the turn with 10 metres left to swim. And finishes there on a 25.21. with Jake Bailey second from the Cayman Islands in a 25.87. Closely followed by 100th of a second difference, Robert Jones from Jersey. And then we have Ola Breu, Roland Tofteron and Robin Sinderquist from Gotland. He finished in a 29.40.
Right, so
next up is the women's 200 metres backstroke. The current record is held by Seinhilde Johansson from the Faroe Islands. That's a time of 2:11.20 set in 2019. And we have 3 heats. In the first heat we have 5 swimmers, in heat 2 we have 5 swimmers, and in heat 3 we have 5 swimmers, so 15 swimmers competing this morning in this event. And first up we have swimmers from Greenland, Guernsey, Isle of Man and Åland.
4 ladies to start off on heat number 1. They are all present, correct? Just checking the equipment. After the incident the other evening. The only bit of the swimming to make the national news headlines. Right, we're ready to go. Over to you, Mr. Referee, sir.
So this is the first heat of the women's 200 meters backstroke.
Away they go.
All swimmers diving backwards over the water into their streamlined shape, with Tatiana Tostevin using all 14 meters underwater before she surfaces in lane 3. And Tatiana Tostevin is the fastest suited heat going into this first heat. And she has an entry time of 2:15.45. And she's leading out the heat and turning first in a 31.67, followed by Kira Prentice from the Isle of Man in a 34.00, followed by Matilda Markusson from Greenland in a 36.14, and Nova Larsson from Ireland in a 39.57. And Tatiana Tostevin going all 10 meters underwater on her third turn. She swims up towards the 100 meter mark, and she turns there in a 66.99 and pops up just at the 9 meter mark underwater. Again comes up at the 9 meter mark with 2 laps to go. So looking nice and comfortable with 50 meters left to swim. Turning in a 1:43.12. And we can see there with Tatiana Tostevin as she swims, she keeps her head nice and still. She's got a good shoulder roll. So although it's called backstroke, swimmers can rotate from side to side. And as they rotate from side to side, that's in time with their arm pull. And then they'll use their leg kick to balance out their arm pull as well, typically using a little flutter kick, which bubbles away just under the water surface as they're swimming along. So Tatiana's got 5 meters left to swim and touches in a 2:19.35. Followed by Kira Prentice from the Isle of Man in 2:27.47. And coming into shot now in lane 2 is Matilda Markusson in a 2:37.57. And there we have Nova Larsson finishing heat 1. A time of 2:53.92. Heat 2 is next. And going as fast as heat in the next heat is a swimmer from the Faroe Islands in lane 3, and that's Elizabeth Errolsdottir. Her seated time is 2:14.17. Also going in this heat is the swimmer from Guernsey, Hannah Kennedy, swimmer from the Isle of Man, Elizabeth Curfrey, and the swimmer from Orkney, Jenna Clapham.
Over to you, Mr. Referee, so side on that.
So the second heat is underway,
30 in lane number 2 for the Isle of Man.
with Elizabeth Earlsdaughter from the Faroe Islands taking an early lead off the start at 15 metres as she moves up into the first turn at 25.
Guernsey, Hannah Kennedy, lane 5 for Orkney, Jenna Clapham.
So again we can see there from Elizabeth Earlsdaughter, a nice backstroke swimming technique. She comes up to her second turn and turns at the 50 and a 31.47. So backstroke, you can see there she's keeping her head nice and still. She's rotating her arms over, rolling her shoulders from side to side as she's doing that, with her hips nice and high on the water surface and her leg kick just flooding away behind. And the idea here is to make sure that you don't have your legs dropping too far underneath the hips. What that does is that creates a little bit of an extra drag. Drag acts to slow you down, and we don't want that in swimming, because what we want to do is maximize propulsion or propulsive force, which is what you generate to go forward, and minimize the amount of drag you experience or create. So Elizabeth Earlsdaughter is moving away, coming up to the 125 metre turn. And is looking nice and comfortable with her nice rhythmical stroke. Little finger entry, very clean, not a lot of splash, which is generally a good sign of a clean swimming technique. So she's got 50 metres left to swim with a 1:41.00 time at the turn of the 150 mark. Final turn, 15 metres left to swim. Elizabeth Earlsdaughter going on to finish the second heat of the women's 200 metres backstroke with a time of 2:15.43.
Just while they're preparing the equipment, we head off for the final heat, heat number 3 of this event, number 30. Then we have the gentlemen's 800, and then we will have a bit of a break before the 2 relays this morning. Are we still morning? Yes, we are still morning. That is it. Right, Madam Referee, we're ready to go. Preliminary heat number 3.
We have heat 3, third and final heat of the women's 200 metres backstroke. And fastest seed going into this heat is Gemma Atherley from Jersey in lane 3 with a seeded time of 2:12.90. Also in this heat is another swimmer from Jersey, Megan Hansford, 2 swimmers from the Shetland Islands, and 1 swimmer from the Western Isles. There's lane 3 taking out the early lead, and that's Gemma Atherley looking to turn first, quickly followed by a compatriot, Megan Hansford from Jersey in lane 4, both wearing the red hats.
Bethany Irvine.
And it's Gemma Atherley turning first. 31.57. And going all the way through to 9 meters underwater using her dolphin kick before she breaks the surface of the water and starts swinging backstroke. And again, very similar to Elizabeth in the previous heat. Our backstroke technique is such that she has a very still head position. She's got a nice little finger entry as the hands enter the water, not a lot of splash. Nice body roll from side to side. High hips and a flutter kick just bubbling away underneath the surface of the water, and she turns first at the 100 meter mark in a 65, followed by Megan Hansford in the lane beside her. And Gemma Atherley maintaining her underwater work all the way through to 9 meters. 2 lengths left to go. So swimmers will typically know how many dolphin kicks they need to take on their turns, and when they're swimming, particularly as they pass under the flags, to get their timing right for the turns, they'll know how many strokes they need to take before they turn onto the front, flip over, do a tumble, plant their feet on the wall, and then push off into their streamline shape before they take their dolphin kicks. Now that's just through practice and training. So with 5 meters left to go, Gemma Atherley touches first in a 2:15.42, followed by Megan Hansford, also from Jersey, in a 2:19.31. Third is Bethany Irvine in a 2:32.06, and Rona Anderson in a 2:36.83. And finishing, Kira MacDonald, 2:45.52. And we're going to move now on to the men's 800 meters freestyle. And we have 4 heats of this. And the current record stands at 8 minutes 09.94, held by Ollie Mortensen. And Ollie Mortensen's also swum for the Faroe Isles at the World Championships. So he's swum at the FINA World Championships in 2019. So the same year he set the Island Games record, he swam for the Faroe Islands at the Long Course Championships in China. And we have 4 heats, and in the first heat we have 4 swimmers. 2 swimmers from Gozo, 1 from Orkney and 1 from New Yorker. And swimmers have to swim 32 lengths for this event.
And so we head off for heat number 1 of this event 31, the 800 metres.
It's Fraser Burton from Orkney in lane 3, and David Demish from Gozo, who are leading the first length. So swimmers have to swim 32 lengths in total, and they have the help of the lap counters at the shallow end of the pool. So those lap counters count down during the race, so the swimmers know how many lengths they've got left to swim, so they don't just have to count it in their head. They get a little bit of a helping hand like they do on the 1500 meters. And then this is the second time the 800 meters has been swum for men's at the Island Games. The other time was in Gibraltar 4 years ago in 2019, and before that what typically happened was that the women swam the 800 freestyle and the men swam the 1500 meter freestyle. Now both swim both events. So we can see there that the swimmer from Gozo in lane 5 is taking out early lead as he's coming up to the 125 meter mark and turns first. So it's David Dymek from Gozo. This morning's 800 freestyle is made up of 4 heats, but it's a heat declared winner. So that means the 4th and final heat will be swum this evening, and that will contain the fastest seeded swimmers. So it doesn't mean that these swimmers are swimming for a place in the final. These swimmers are actually swimming for a fastest time on the day. The fastest time on the day wins the event. So a swimmer who might swim a fast time in the morning that isn't bettered in the evening has the potential of winning the event overall. The 800 meters freestyle in the pool is the second longest distance, the longest being the 1500 meters. But typically you see swimmers who can swim the 1500 meters might swim down the distance to swim the 800, and vice versa. The swimmers who typically swim the 800 will swim up to the 1500 meters. So I'm thinking particularly of the women's event. There's an American swimmer called Katie Ledecky, who is a proponent of both events, and she currently holds the world record for the women's 800 and 1500 meters. In a similar fashion, in the men's event, the current short course world record is one of the older ones. That's actually on the record books, and that's held by Grant Hackett, the Australian, and that was set in 2008 at the Victorian Short Course Championships in Melbourne, and that currently stands at a 7:23.42. So we can see David Dymek from Gozo still holding the lead, although the swimmer from Orkney, Fraser Burton, who took out the early lead on the 50, is starting to track back and catch up, and will likely draw neck and neck over the next 50 meters or so. And indeed he has. So you can see there that Fraser Burton has overtaken David Dymek from Gozo on that turn. And both swimmers now have 13 laps remaining. So when they turn next at the deep end of the pool, they will have 300 meters left to swim. So they're over halfway. So 300 meters left to swim, 12 laps. And Fraser Burton from Orkney taking the lead and touching in a 5:58. And David Dymek, who set the early pace in the first half of the race, has been caught by another swimmer, so that's a swimmer in lane 4. And that's Alex Gomez Carreras from Mallorca, who's caught up, stayed level, and then moved ahead. So he's now moved into second place, with the swimmer from Gozo in third. So Fraser Burton coming in to the deep end of the pool, and when he turns he'll have 200 meters left. So 8 lengths left to swim. And getting encouragement there from the side, from the coach. Make sure he can kick his legs, which he is. We can see his feet just bubbling away under the water surface. He's looking at using a nice long loping stroke, nice high elbow, breathing every 2. What Alex will probably start doing shortly, once he knows he's got only 5 lengths left to swim, we'll be looking to maybe increase the stroke rate if he can. So that's speeding his arm stroke up just a little bit, maybe a fraction more if he can, and kick his legs a little bit harder to increase his pace, so that his last 100 meters swim is quicker than what he's been traveling at for the last couple of hundreds. So Alex is approaching the shallow end, and he has 75 meters left to swim. And behind him is second place. So we have the last 50 meters. Fraser Burton turning first from Orkney, and he'll have one more turn before he turns onto the 25. And we'll look to finish this length. So Fraser Burton from Orkney coming in with 5 meters left to swim. Touches first in a 9:37.36. By Alex Gomez Carreras from Mallorca in a 9:42.70. So both swimmers swimming faster than their seeded time. They're both seeded on a 9:48. Both swimmers finishing faster than that. So Fraser Burton 9:37 and Alex in a 9:42.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed. Heat number 2 then. Just let you know that we have been get the results in, but what I will do is between the final event, which this is, and then the relays, I'll rattle through the results for you and tell you who's swimming. So, please, silence around the pools. We go on to heat number 2. Over to you, Madam Referee.
So next up is heat 2 of 4.
Silence, please.
And we have swimmers in this heat from Mallorca, Shetland Islands, Isle of Wight, Gibraltar, Guernsey and St. Helena. Heat 2's away, with the fastest seed being Benjamin van der Helstrept from the Isle of Wight, with a seeded time of 9:14.84.
In lane 2 for Shetland
And beside him,
Finlay Geddes.
in lane 4 is Jack Santos from Gibraltar, and the other side is Finlay Geddes from the Shetland Isles. Also in this heat is Ross Yates from Guernsey, the 40-year-old, who I'm sure will have his daughter on poolside cheering on, as well as William Caswell from St Helena and David Simone Pons from Mallorca. There's the swimmer in lane 3 leading the way. That's Benjamin van der Helstred from the Isle of Wight. Behind him is Ross Yates in lane 5 from Guernsey, who's holding second place. There's going to be Benjamin turning first on the 100 in a 62.59, followed by Ross Yates in a 104.47. So swimmers will start to settle into a rhythm on the 200, and then we'll look to maintain that through to 400, 600, and then try to swim the last 200 quicker. So it depends how these swimmers have been training, whether or not they look to implement a tactic where they go out fast, or what's called easy speed for the first 200, settle into a rhythm and then try to maintain it all the way through, or whether or not you've got a swimmer who likes to swim the race almost in reverse, so they take it out nice and steady for the first half and then look to negative split in the second half. And we have Benjamin going out on the 200 split on a 2:11 and Ross Yates on a 2:13. And negative split basically means that you swim the second part of the race faster than the first part of the race. There's the Isle of Wight swimmer leading the way, with Ross Yates starting to claw back that lead that Benjamin built in the first 200. With Ross Yates just on the feet of the swimmer from the Isle of Wight. And Ross is breathing towards the Isle of Wight swimmer and vice versa, so they could well see each other, or be aware of each other at least. Possibly see the splash. But again, on this lap, both swimmers are breathing away from each other. So Benjamin's coming up for the 300-meter turn, closely followed by Ross. So there we've got a 3:21 and a 3:22. So Benjamin's splitting around about a 1:10 pace. And Ross is closer to maybe a 1:09, 1:09.5, give or take. They're very similarly paced, these two swimmers, in first and second. And you can see the crowd here at Beausejour, who've had extra seating put into the venue. So we've got seating capacity for over 200, and then the teams are all around the pool at the far end in their respective places that they're allocated by the officials. And online we've had so far this morning over 250 unique views, so thank you to all the viewers who are watching our live stream this morning. And as the two swimmers come up to halfway, 400-meter turn, there's not much between them, and they turn there. Benjamin first in a 4:31 and Ross Yates in a 4:32. So both swimmers are clocking 1:10 lows pretty consistently now, so they'll look to try and maintain that for as long as possible. And if there's anything left and they've got sufficient energy for the last 100 meters, they'll try to go a little bit quicker if they can. And it looks like Ross Yates is starting to take that lead, so whether or not he's clocking 1:09.5s and Benjamin's clocking 1:10s, that will be what's making the difference. And whether or not Ross has decided to take the first 400 out at a certain place and then try to kick on from 400 to go. And Ross Yates indeed has taken the lead and turning there in a 5:42, as is Benjamin, also in a 5:42. So Ross probably clocking about half a second per 100 pace. Then the swimmer in lane 3 from the Isle of Wight. And he's just allowing that pace to tick over so he can slowly start moving ahead. So Ross now breathing towards the swimmer from the Isle of Wight, being aware of where he is. And after this, on the next turn, both swimmers will have 200 meters left to swim. So Ross, who's in frame, who decided to come out of retirement a couple of years ago to try his hand to see if he could qualify for the Island Games, and was able to do so. So he's swum the 200 fly already this week, and also he's now swimming the 800 freestyle. So he turned in a time splitting again 69 point, whereas Benjamin was clocking more of a 110 pace. You can see that Ross is using that pace to start to move further ahead. And Ross has swum for Guernsey before, and has also competed at the Island Games in football. Looks like he's paced this swim well. With 100 meters left to go when he turns here. So turning on 8 minutes. There's Benjamin 2 minutes behind on an 8:02. So Ross has been able to maintain that 69 pace for his 100 meters, whereas Ben's been closer to the 110 pace. And it looks like Ross is trying to move away with 50 meters left to go. And at this turn, you'll hear the whistle. So swimmers are given a whistle as they approach the turn and as they exit, so that they can know they've got 50 meters left to swim. And both swimmers are giving as much as they can with 25 left to swim. And it looks like the swimmer from the Isle of Wight is trying to pull back on Ross. So Benjamin is really trying to catch up, but he's still maintaining that lead, Ross, although it's going to be a tight finish. But Ross holds on and touches first. And he touches first in 9:08. Followed by Benjamin van der Helstert from the Isle of Wight in a 9:09. So that last split for Ross, 68 points. But we could see there that Benjamin really tried his hardest on the last 100, splitting a 67 to try to chase him down. And he nearly did, but not quite enough. So first was Ross Yates, followed by Benjamin van der Helstert, and Finlay Guides, and William Caswell, David Simon Pons, and Jack Santos.
Good event, well done. Heat number 3 then, heat number 3 of this event, number 31, the men's 800 meter freestyle. Gentlemen are ready to go, so please your silence for your side. Over to you, Mr. Referees.
Heat 3 is next. This will be the final heat this morning, with the fastest being swum this evening as part of the final session. Fastest seed in here in this third heat is Jake Bailey from the Cayman Islands, going in lane 3. The seeded time of 8:55.22. Heat 3 is away, with lane 3 taking a quick lead off the start at the 50-metre mark. That's Jake Bailey from the Cayman Islands. And beside him, from the Shetland Isles in lane 4, Robbie Thompson, who's actually started to drift slightly ahead at the 50 metres. The two swimmers turn first on a 28.02 and a 28.10. There's Jake Bailey and Robbie Thompson taking out the early lead, followed by the swimmer in lane 1. And that's Rosen Martin from the Isle of Wight. And also in this heat, in lane 5 is Jack Burgess from the Isle of Man, Benjamin Wireless from Gotland, and Christian Chang Chivalina from Gibraltar in lane 6. But it's Jake Bailey leading at the 100 and has built a lead of nearly 1.5 body lengths. Followed by Robbie Thompson from the Shetland Islands. It's Jake Bailey splitting sub-30s for each 50 so far, so turning in a 1:29. So that's 30-second pace for each of the first 3 50s. So if he maintains that, he'll be going through the first 200 meters in a time of around about 2 minutes. Yes, he turns in a 2:01.77. So in contrast to the swimmers who've just swum earlier in the previous heat, who are repping around about 69-70 seconds for each 100 meters, Jake Bailey here is repping around about 60-61 seconds for the 100 meters. He's starting to drift out a little bit, so the early pace he set, being around about 30 seconds, is now drifting more through to 32, so he's more clocking 64 pace now for the next 100 metre. And if that's the case, then he'll be turning at the 300 metres around about 3:05 seconds. So Jake Bailey's over at 3:06. He's clocking around about a 64 pace, 64.5 pace for his 100 metres at the moment as he's swimming along. So you can see Jake there breathing every 2. Breathing to his right as we watch him. He'll take an extra breath to the left just before the turn so he can get some air into his lungs, so he can hold that when he's underwater before he starts swimming again, coming back through onto the next lap. Here comes Jake Bailey coming up to the halfway mark, 400 metres. He's looking to turn on a 4:11.71. So the first 200 metres he was out in a 2:01, and then the second 200 metres he came back on a 2:10. So Jake Bailey is repping about a 65 pace. in this 800 freestyle. So Jake carries on this pace for the next turn. For the 500 meter mark, we'll be looking at a time where he's turning in a 5:16, maybe 5:17. .5:17.00. So earlier this session we've seen all 4 strokes. So we've seen the individual medley, we've seen some butterfly, we've seen some backstroke, we've seen some breaststroke. And all the strokes are different. The front crawl, which we're seeing here, is the fastest of the strokes. It's the most efficient and the most effective, so you can go the quickest, and that's demonstrated by typically the world records. So in the 800 meters, that's held by Grant Hackett from Australia. And then typically next you'd see the butterfly event, but in butterfly you only swim the 50, 100 and 200. Similarly with the backstroke, where you swim 50, 100, 200, and then the breaststroke usually being the slowest of the strokes. Again, they only swim the 50, 100 and 200. And that was Jake Bailey at the 600 meter turn, and he's still repping 65 pace, nice and consistently, out on a 2:01, then a 4:11, and then a 6:21. As he comes up to the next turn, he'll have 6 lengths left to swim. As he does so, he's starting to catch some of the back markers. So in lane 5, that's Jack Burgess from the Isle of Man. And Jake Bailey's coming up to 100 meters left to go. So 7:26. So go another 65 paced 100 meter from the swimmer from the Cayman Islands. And so if he's able to put in a little bit of an extra push, we're looking at a time which is going to be sub 8 minutes 30. And with an entry time of 8:55.22. If he goes sub 8:30 for the 800 meters, he's going to be pretty pleased. I think it's going to be close. He's got to go a 15-second last 25 meters to make it, so he might just be outside it. Indeed he is, but that's a good swim from Jake Bailey, touching first, 8:30.71. And coming in second now, there's a swimmer from the Shetland Isles, Robbie Thompson, at a time of 8:54.76. A swimmer from Isle of Wight in lane 1, Rosa Martin, 9:04, followed by the swimmer in lane 6 and lane 5. So it's Christian Chang Chipolina and Jack Burgess, with one swimmer just about to finish with 5 meters left to go. That's Benjamin Wireless from Gotland, and he finishes in a time of 9:25.17. So Jake Bailey is fastest from this morning in the 800 metres freestyle on a time of 8:30.71.
The end of the individuals. Then we'll have a, what time is it now? We'll call it 10 to. 10 to a 15-minute gap, so at 12:05, which will gather together in this place. No, better not do that. So give us 15 minutes now, during which time I shall read out the results that we have to date. So 15 minutes from now, we come back with the final two relays event. 32, that's the women's 100.
So what we're going to do in just a moment, we're going to have a very short interlude, and we have a short interlude in all of the sessions, and that interlude is between the end of the individual events and the beginning of the relay team events, and that's for swimmers to warm up in preparation for their relays. So what we're going to do is take a 15-minute break, and once we return we're going to have the two relays. And these two relays are the 4x100 meter freestyle relay for women, and also the 4x100 meter medley relay for men. And we have two heats in both of those events. In the first, for the women's, we have teams from the Faroe Islands, the Isle of Wight, the Isle of Man and the Shetland Islands, together with Guernsey, Åland, the Western Isles and Gibraltar, so it looks like we have a mixed team, and also Cayman Islands and Jersey. And after that we have the men's team event with teams from Gotland, Jersey, Guernsey, Western Isles and the Faroe Islands, Orkney, Cayman Islands, Åland and Gozo, so we have another mixed team there in the men's event, Shetland Islands, Isle of Wight and the Isle of Man. So we'll take a short interlude and we'll see you in a moment. And welcome back to the second part of this morning's session. So we're on day 3 of the swimming program, and what we have in just a moment is the women's 4x100 meters freestyle team relay, and we have two heats, and the current record stands at 3:50.46, set in 2013 by the team from Jersey. That's a team of Beth Cumming, Becky Scaife, Gemma Atherley and Emily Bashforth. And in the first heat we have 4 teams. First team Faroe Islands, second team Isle of Wight, then we have the Isle of Man and the Shetland Islands going in lane 5.
Robin Douglas, Chloe Batty and Kira Prentice. In lane 5 for the Shetland Islands, Rona Anderson, Anne Hutchison, Bethany Irving and Freya Masson. So, Madam Referee. Silence around the pool, ladies and gentlemen, please. Over to you, Madam Referee.
First heat of the women's 100 meters front floor team relay, and in the relay events we have 4 swimmers, each of the swimmers swimming a leg of 100 meters. And the way it works is the swimmer who's in the water completes the first 100 meters. They need to touch the timing pad, which is down at the deep end of the pool, the yellow pads just coming into frame. And the next swimmer can't leave the block, so their toes have to remain on the block as the swimmer finishes. So if the swimmer on the block leaves early, and that means before the incoming swimmers actually touch the pad, they run the risk of being disqualified. It's the team in lane 3, which is led by Nell O'Brien from the Isle of Wight, closely followed by Rowan Anderson. but the Faroe Islands by Idrid Mortensen, who touch in first and second. And in the water for the Faroe Islands is Elizabeth Eroldsdottir, and for the Isle of Wight, Lucy Isaacson. And these two teams are leading in first and second, with the team from the Isle of Man in third. And in the water there we have Robin Douglas swimming the second leg for the Isle of Man. So the teams are coming up to the halfway split. The first two legs done, and then the third swimmer will go in. So for the Faroe Islands, the third swimmer is Leah Osberg Holstead, and for the Isle of Wight it is Grace Pointer, followed by Chloe Batty for the Isle of Man. And you can see the Faroe Isles starting to move away from the Isle of Wight. As the third leg approached the 75-metre mark with 25 left to swim. But actually, the swimmer from the Isle of Wight has made some gains in that last couple of metres. So you can see Grace Pointer coming back on Leah Osberg Holstead from the Faroe Isles. And indeed, it's going to be the Isle of Wight who take over first on the fourth and final leg of the relay. So these swimmers are swimming for a final place of this evening. Well, there's not much between these two teams from the Faroe Islands and the Isle of Wight. And in the water for the Faroe Islands we have Alicia Beck Vestergaard, and in for the Isle of Wight we have Abigail Lacey. It's going to come up to the last 25 metres. Both teams close together, and it looks like the team from the Faroe Isles just got the touch. So 3/10 between them. The Faroe Isles touch first, followed by the Isle of Wight. And then in third, the Isle of Man, brought home by Kyra Prentice. And then third for the Shetland Islands, brought in by Freya. So there we have the results. The Faroe Islands first, the Isle of Wight, then the Isle of Man, and the Shetland Islands finishing in a 4:24.24. And we're going to move now on to Heat 2, which is the second and final heat of the women's 400 metres front crawl team relay. In the next heat we have teams from Guernsey, Åland, the Western Isles and Gibraltar, Cayman Islands and Jersey. So teams, if they don't have enough swimmers to make up a relay, can join together. So the Western Isles and Gibraltar have formed a mixed team, and they'll go in lane 3. And unlike the individual heats, where the individuals are seeded by time, the relays are randomly allocated lanes. So although you might have a team that you might expect to be the fastest in lane 3 for the relays, in the heats at least, that isn't the case. It's the finals that will be seeded based on the times that they do in the morning. So in a moment, the swimmers are going to be brought down on poolside and announced. And this is for the second heat of the women's 4x100 metres freestyle team relay.
Right, while they're getting ready for swim, let you know that in lane number 1 we have the team of Guernsey. That's Ola Raby, Hannah Jones, Ailish Raby, and Molly Staples. Lane 2, Orlands, Jenny Eck, Selma Nordberg, Wilma Danielson, and Ellen Voivelin. In lane number 3, the combined teams of Western Isles and Gibraltar, Erin Smith, Kira MacDonald, Asia Kent, and Rachel Saunders. Lane 4, Cayman Islands, Kira Rabes, Veronica Fankina, Sarah Jackson, and Alison Jackson. In lane number 5 for Jersey, Sienna Stevens, Elizabeth Powell, Alana Woodall, and Clara Ginnis. So please, ladies and gentlemen, until we get underway, please your silence around the pool. Over to you, Mr. Referee, sir.
Second heat underway. And the teams are Guernsey in lane 1, Ireland in lane 2, mixed team, which is made up of swimmers from Western Isles and Gibraltar in lane 3. The Cayman Islands and Jersey in lane 5. And in the water for Guernsey currently is Ola Raby, and in for the Cayman Islands, leading the way, is Clara Rabus. As Clara Rabus for the Cayman Islands taking the early lead of the 50, turning in a 28.08, closely followed by Ola Raby in lane 1, and in Jersey, in lane 5, Sienna Stevens from Jersey. Looks like Ola Raby is going to touch first in lane 1 for Guernsey, and she's split a 57.57. So the current record is held by Jersey, and that's set at a 350.46. And if you work that out for the 4 swimmers, that pretty much works out as a 57.5 for all swimmers going those times. So if all 4 swimmers go that time, they'll be looking to get close to that Island Games record. So Laura Raby has already split a 57.5. So we'll see what less we've got for the rest of the Guernsey swimmers, together with the swimmers from the Cayman Islands, who are currently in 2nd place, and also from Jersey in lane 5 in 3rd. So in the water for Guernsey, we've got Hannah Jones. For Cayman, we have Veronica Frankina and Elizabeth Powell for Jersey. But Hannah Jones from Guernsey finishing there, and she's just split a 60 point. To take the touch, and the 3rd leg swimmer for Guernsey is Ailish Raby. That's Ola's sister, so the 2 sisters are swimming on the same relay today for Guernsey. And in the water for the Cayman Islands is Sarah Jackson, and for Jersey it's Alana Woodhull. Guernsey are just maintaining their lead this morning in the heats of the women's relay. And the 3rd leg is just about to finish. Ailish Raby is just going to finish. It's going to be Molly Staples taking over for the Guernsey team. And for Cayman Islands, it's Alison Jackson taking home the anchor leg. And for Jersey, it's Clara Guinness in lane 5. So the lead that all built up in that first leg of the relay is still being maintained by Molly Staples here on the final anchor leg. And indeed she may well be swimming away from Alison Jackson from the Cayman Islands in lane 4. But there's not much between these two swimmers, maybe only about half a second. The team from Jersey in third. And actually it is Alison Jackson from the Cayman Islands making a little bit of a move. She's going to be down on the touch. But it's Molly Staples who gets the touch in the end. Fastest finish. And they touch first. 3:55.74, followed by the Cayman Islands in a 3:56.01. There is Jersey in a 3:59.48. Fourth was the team from Åland, and then the mixed team made up of swimmers from the Western Isles and Gibraltar, coming in on a 4:18.65. And in a moment we're just going to move on to the final event of this morning's session, which is another relay event. It's the men's 4x100 metres medley team relay. The current Island Games record is held by Jersey, and that is a team of Harry Shalamon, Ian Black, Thomas Galashon, and Cameron Donaldson. So that currently stands at 3:42.91, set in 2015. And we have two heats coming up. The first heat, we have teams from Gotland, Jersey, Guernsey, the Western Isles and the Faroe Islands. And in the second heat we've got a team from Orkney, the Cayman Islands, a mixed team made up of swimmers from Åland and Gozo, the Shetland Islands, the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Man. The swimmers for the first heat are now being paraded down onto poolside before being announced to the crowd.
We don't know if we do this in the heat, but this is pretty good. Lane 1 showing Gotland, lane 2 Jersey, lane 3 Guernsey, lane 4 Western Isles, and lane 5 the Faroe Islands. We'll read the names as we get underway. Right swimmers around the pool, please ladies and gentlemen, your silence, over to you and the referee.
Okay, so what we have now is the first heat of the men's 4x100 metre medley team relay. And here we have swimmers going backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly and front crawl in that order. And the swimmers all start diving up and over the water backwards and into their streamline shape, taking their dolphin kicks before they surface and start sprinting onto the backstroke. So in lane 2 we have Isaac Dodds leading the way for Jersey, followed by Owain Edwards for Guernsey in lane 3, and then for the Faroe Isles, Liglas Johansson in lane 5, currently tracking in third. So it's Isaac Dodds turning first at the 50 metre split, out on a 28.21. And he's using his underwater work to his advantage, coming up at 10 metres. Isaac's already swum this week. He was the winner on the first evening of the 200 butterfly. And he is coming in to finish the backstroke leg at a 58.08, and he is being taken over by Thomas Defanes from Jersey, who's now swimming the breaststroke leg. And he's being chased currently by Ronnie Halliot, one of the two brothers from Guernsey, on the breaststroke in lane 3, and by Bartel Erlings Izardgaard from the Faroe Islands in lane 5. with the blue hat. So in the water, Ronnie for Guernsey in lane 3. He was the winner of the 100 metres breaststroke on the first evening. He's looking to chase down Thomas Defanes from Jersey in the red hat in lane 2. And he's making a little bit of an inroad into the lead that Jersey built through Isaac Dodds on the first leg on the backstroke. And he's going to look to try to pull his team back level at the halfway mark. So it's Charlie Joe from Guernsey can take over, that's his brother. But he's going in second behind Jersey. And in Jersey, for Jersey in the third leg, we have Joseph Stewart swimming the butterfly leg. So both Guernsey and Jersey are battling it out for places in the final in lane 2 and 3. So Joseph Stewart for Jersey in lane 2 in the red hat, and Charlie Joe Halliot in lane 3 in the white hat for Guernsey. And there's not much to them, so this is the same distance between them as pretty much what it was when the breaststroke leg finished. But it may be that Charlie Joe is looking to pull back and move into the lead. And indeed he has. He's managed to take a lead out the Jersey swimmer on that third and final turn, and is extending it out onto the last 25 and building that lead up to a body length. And in the water for Guernsey is Samuel Lowe. Samuel Lowe's already swum this morning in the 200 backstroke. And in for Jersey, it's Matthew Defanes, who is now chasing the Guernsey team. So they switched over the lead. But it'll be these two teams, followed by the team from the Faroe Islands, who has Henny Moore Askim on their anchor leg. But we're only looking at 0.3 of a second at that turn with 50 metres to go. And it looks like the Jersey swimmer may well be just looking to creep into the lead. But it's going to be down to the last 25 and pretty much the final touch on the wall. But I think the Jersey swimmer, Matthew Defanes, is going to take the lead as he moves in with 5 metres to go. And he touches first with the 53.53. So Samuel Lowe also touching in 3:53, but this time 3:53.9. So first in that heat was Jersey, followed by Guernsey. Then the Faroe Islands, Scotland, and the Western Islands making up the final 2 places. With the mixed team finishing with a time of 4:33.25. So that wasn't the mixed team, that was the team from the Western Isles. The mixed team goes in the next heat, which will be brought out shortly. And that heat has teams from Orkney, the Cayman Islands, the mixed team of Åland and Gozo, the Shetland Islands, the Isle of Wight, and the Isle of Man.
Right, heat 2 then, the final event of this morning, or in fact this afternoon, now just heading up to 12:30. In lane number 1 for Orkney, I'll give you the names as they get going. Lane 2 is Cayman Islands. Lane 3 is Åland and Gozo. Lane 4, Shetland Islands. Lane 5, Isle of Wight. And in lane number 6, the Isle of Man. So ladies and gentlemen, please, for the final heat of this morning, please, your silence around the pool. Over to Mr. Referee, sir. Thank you.
And here we have the final event of this morning's session. It's the second heat of the men's 100 metres medley team relay. So teams from Orkney in lane 1, Cayman Islands in lane 2, mixed team of Åland and Gozo in 3, the Shetland Isles in lane 4, the Isle of Wight in lane 5 and the Isle of Man in lane 6. And at the turn it looks like the teams of the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Man in lanes 5 and 6 are leading. The Isle of Man in the black cap in lane 6 and the Isle of Wight just one lane closer. And it's the Isle of Wight turning first. That's George Hayward on a time of 28.34, followed by Benjamin Cable in a 28.43. Third is in lane 2, which is Will Sellers from the Cayman Islands. And the swimmer from the Isle of Man, Benjamin Cable, is extending his lead, and he's going to touch first at the 100 metre mark. The previous heat, the time that they split was a 58.0, and Benjamin Cable comes in on a 59.27. But in the water, taking over from Benjamin, is Alexander Turnbull for the Isle of Man. He's starting to swim away from the swimmer in the lane next to him, which is Wyman Davidson from the Isle of Wight. But it's these two swimmers who are leading the rest of the teams. With Cayman Islands in third, with Aidan van der Twel swimming the breaststroke leg. And as they turn with 25 metres to go, we can see that the swimmer from the Isle of Wight, William Donson, is starting to track and looking to catch the swimmer from the Isle of Man beside him. It still looks like the Isle of Man swimmer is going to finish first, which he does. And he finished there and was able to finish cleanly, such that the next swimmer could take over. So in the water for the Isle of Man is Peter Allen, swimming the butterfly leg. And Peter Allen from the Isle of Man was the winner in the 100 metres butterfly yesterday evening for the Isle of Man. And chasing him is Joe Carter from the Isle of Wight in the lane beside him. And Peter Allen there uses his underwork to 10 metres before he starts swimming. And we'll come up to the third and final turn before the next swimmer for the Isle of Man, Carrick Thompson, will take over for the anchor leg. And Peter Allen has extended the Isle of Man's lead over the team beside them, the Isle of Wight. And in the water goes Carrick Thompson for the Isle of Man. And still in third is the Cayman Islands, with Thomas Ferguson going on the anchor leg for them. But it's Carrick Thompson who's in the water for the Isle of Man leading, with 50 metres left to go. And they've built up a 10-metre lead over the second place team from the Isle of Wight. 25 metres left to swim for the Isle of Man swimmer. will look to come off. He may look to start to ease off slightly as he comes into the finish, knowing he's in the lead. And he finishes there with a 3:57.45, followed by the team from the Isle of Wight in 4 minutes 03.04. And the Cayman Islands in third in 4:06.63.
Right, swimmers, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for day.
And there we have the final results for the final heat, with the last swimmer left to go in lane 3. So that's the mixed team. With Anthony Borg coming in on the anchor leg, finishing a time of 4:53.19.
Thank you so much.
Ever, so congratulations to Gozo. Well done, guys.
And that concludes the 11 events from this morning's swimming program. And this evening we'll have the finals of those events. So some highlights from this morning. We started off with the men's 100 meters individual medley, and going into the finals tonight there, the top 4 seeds are all on a 58-second time. So we have swimmers from a 58.37 all the way down to a 58.92 being the first top seeds there. So that will be a nice close race this evening. Going next, we had the women's 400 meters freestyle, and the fastest seed this evening is Kyra Rabis from the Cayman Islands. But we also have Orla Raby and her sister Ailish Raby going this evening in the 400 meters front crawl for women. Following on from that, then we had the 200 meters backstroke for men, and the 2 fastest seats going into the tonight's finals are 2 Guernsey men. That's Samuel Lowe and Thomas Hollingsworth. And Tom Hollingsworth will be looking to add to his medal tally of 52 medals. Also in there we have Will Sellers and also Luke Fleming from Jersey. Next up we have the women's 100 meters breaststroke, and we have the fastest seed into tonight's final, Laura Keenley from the Isle of Man. She split a 1:11.35 this morning, which is over a second faster than the person in second place, which is Jasmine Smith from the Shetland Islands. Moving on then, we have the men's 100 meters freestyle, and it could well be we see a sub 50 finish this evening. We had Oliver Breu from Jersey going at 50.9 this morning, and then we have a number of other swimmers all placed on a 52 seconds for the 100 meters. And it's going to be a similar case for the women's 50 freestyle. So all seeds in tonight's final are within a second of each other, with the fastest being Alison Jackson from the Cayman Islands, with Laura Lacroix in 6th place, less than a second behind. We also had the men's 50 meters butterfly, and again very similar to the 50 freestyle for the ladies. All of these swimmers are within a second. In fact, only 3/4 of a second separates the first seed with the 6th seed. So going into the first seed tonight will be Joel Waterson from the Isle of Man, and 6th place is Charlie Joe Hallett from Guernsey. We also then have the women's 200 meters backstroke, and it was a close race this morning between Gemma Atherley and Elizabeth Earlsdaughter from the Faroe Isles. And going into tonight's final, the 2 swimmers are only separated by 100th of a second. Also tonight we'll have the final heat of the men's 800 freestyle. So they're the fastest 6 seeded swimmers for tonight, and also the 2 finals for the relays that we've just seen. So that was the women's 4x100 meters freestyle team relay and the men's 100 meters in medley team relay. So we'll be back tonight for the finals of the 3rd day of swimming at 6 p.m, which will be live stream. And this morning's sessions, similar to previous sessions, will be available shortly to view again on the NatWest International Island Games 2023 website. So thanks for viewing, and as we close, we're going to enjoy some of the highlights from this morning's session.